Good Tuesday morning, Jerry Miller. Welcome to Real Talk on the I Love CVille Network. This, an insider's guide to real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness, powered by the Yes Team Realtors, trusted advisors in this game that we call Real Estate and Life, Keith and Yona Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. This program, live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. Judah Wickower is our director and a producer on the program. Judah, why don't we go to the studio cam so we can see the fabulous back of your head, one of the best in the world, the back of his head, Judah, right there. And now we have the distinguished gentleman on camera looking sharp per usual. My friend, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to you. So I can't wait for this conversation. This is just, this is going to be one of these things that you just hang on and let lead be lead. This is going to be a lot of fun. But we have a lot in common, and we'll talk about that when Leigh gets on live. But there's a saying that Leigh quotes, and I'll let her share the rest of it, but there's a portion of it that I love, is that, get the hell out of your own way.
Yes.
And we coach a lot of people, my wife and I, and sometimes folks get in their own way, and that's just a great line.
Perfection, oftentimes the enemy of productivity.
Yeah, sure.
Another way of saying that right now, before we go to her on Skype and Judah, I will give you a heads up, my friend, when we do, and let's all, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to our guest, let's all shine the spotlight on a couple that we respect tremendously here in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to like the show and share the show on Facebook, because the distinguished gentleman, Keith Smith, and his beautiful, better 7/8, Yona Smith, their 34th
anniversary.
34th wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. When you see Yona, offer condolences.
Stop. 34 years.
Yeah.
Everyone's asking you, what's the secret?
Yeah, well, it's funny. We were asked that question just the other day, and I don't mean to oversimplify it, but marry, partner, whatever terminology you wish to use, with somebody who makes you a better person every day. And every morning I wake up, that beautiful woman that I wake up with makes me a better person every day. So I'm just blessed. And we were just looking at pictures from 1985, and we posted some on Facebook until the other day, and I don't know, where the hell does 34 years go?
34 years. Man, absolutely amazing.
It goes like that.
Guys, give it a like and a share for Keith Smith and Yona Smith and 34-year anniversary. Now I'm going to go to Skype, and as I'm calling Leigh Thomas Brown, I'd like for you to give kind of the cliff notes, my friend, of who this guest is.
Well, she's a real estate agent. She's a best-selling author. She's a speaker, and when I say international, it is international. Everything from Garden City, Long Island, my home, where I'm from, to Vietnam. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But she's a social influencer. And, I was thinking about this on the way. She just speaks the truth, right?
That's all we want.
She just speaks the truth. She tells it like it is.
Right.
I really think she's a closet New Yorker, but we won't go there.
We won't. I'm reaching out to her now, Judah Wickower, on Skype. I think this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal interview. If our audio-visual test was any indication, Leigh Brown is big time, and she's given us her most precious commodity, which is her time.
Thank you.
We are live in the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network, powered by the trusted advisors, the Yes Team Realtors, guys, Keith and Yona Smith. You are now live with thousands watching right now, Leigh. Thank you kindly for joining us on the program. I'm going to get out of your way because you are a superstar of tremendous proportions. Please introduce yourself to the viewing public.
I do like how you said thousands, but it's probably in the tens right off the bat, but maybe you'll get to thousands later, because we love recorded things that are live and get watched later, don't we? Like, it's the best part of this.
I love it.
And then people make comments back like we're still live, and that's always my favorite part, because we love y'all even when you're not live. But anyway, I'm Leigh Brown. I am from Concord, North Carolina. I'm a 20-year realtor who, prior to real estate, sold chainsaws, stocks and bonds, and liquor. So I'm pretty much always been a salesperson of sorts. And I'm also a motivational speaker and an author. And actually, one of my best friends in the whole world lives in Charlottesville, and that's Sasha Farmer, who is like one of the biggest realtors in the country, too. And so I get to come to Charlottesville and see Sasha. So, yeah, it's always good to see CVille. And, I was there one other reason, too. When I went to Chapel Hill, I sang in the choir, and we came to UVA one weekend because y'all are real snobbish about UVA. And so we came up there to sing with the snobs. It was great fun.
I love the snark right there. Sasha Tripp actually joined us on this program last week, thanks to Keith Smith.
Well, Kelly has it. I've only met Kelly a couple of times. She'll get to use Tripp sometime soon.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to pass you to Keith. Before I do, I'm curious, what is the most difficult equity, commodity product that you've ever had to sell in your life? You've done liquor, you've done real estate. What's the most difficult thing you've ever had to sell?
What's the most difficult thing I've had to sell? That would be ground up peas to a toddler.
I was going to say your husband, but that's a different story. Maybe not so much. Hello, how are you today?
Are you smiling? Are you angry? We can't tell with the mask.
Oh, well, we're trying to practice social distancing. Jerry's less than 6 feet away from me, so I've actually got a a mask on order that has a mustache sewed on it.
That's beautiful.
Because I got a mustache underneath. I've had that mustache since, let me see, I don't think my wife's ever knew me without my mustache.
Wait a minute. For the quarantine with it, like grow it out into something like a Confederate soldier or something?
No.
He likes his face too much to do that, Leigh.
You don't need to do that on our part.
It's a mask. Look at this mask.
Oh.
My son made it for me out of his sock. He's 13, and a 13-year-old with socks and a pocket knife can make you a mask. And it's probably not very effective, but it's a really good conversation starter.
So, as you notice, we have similar accents, right? You know, a little bit further north than you are. Maybe just a little bit.
I don't know what you're referencing.
There you go. So my wife is Austrian, right? And oh yeah, she's from Vienna, and so we never hear each other's accents. When we put us together in a room having a conversation with somebody like you, it's just like, huh? Exactly right. And we have a lot in common too. We both ran for office and didn't get elected.
Hey, I'm a winner at losing. What can you say?
No, it was probably the best thing that ever happened, because you get to influence so much more, and you're an influencer on this side of the table than that side of the table. You can get so much work done.
I need some influencing on the other side of the table too, Keith.
Excuse me?
Pretty sure we need some influencing on the other side of the table too.
Amen.
Well, we're going to leave politics out of today's show.
Never a question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really even know where to go. I just love having a conversation with Oh yeah, well, most people who know me.
You just got tongue-tied. This is a first for you, I've heard.
For me to be tongue-tied is a big thing. So obviously, I want to know who the hell you're talking to. That's the first thing, so that you know that. But
I got spies all over the world.
Jeez, okay, meeting's over.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Introduce her. Tell her who she is.
Yeah, well,
we need to know.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier.
To her, Jerry, that's sexist and assuming gender. I got hymns that send me screenshots too.
Ooh. You go there. So look, this is a real estate show. You're an influencer in the real estate business. So the 10-ton question in the room. Where do you think we're going here? What do you think this is going to look like on the other side of COVID-19? Big question.
I'm referencing this as the great unknown because we don't know that different municipalities in different states have approached the economic shutdown differently. So I think we're going to see an uneven recovery at best, but it's going to depend on, frankly, less than 1% of the world understands what liquidity is. And there's going to be some challenges to liquidity in the mortgage market. And so if you talk about recovery from a real estate perspective, a lot of it's going to depend on the availability of mortgages. And that's something it's a sophisticated strategy. And frankly, it's one of the things that drives me completely batshit crazy about our elected officials. They're making decisions about financial markets and liquidity, and most of them are less than educated on that subject. We'll just put it that way. But luckily, the realtors are very engaged up there. We have lobbyists that understand the entire picture to the country and to all angles of our communities. Because when you have liquidity issues in the market, unfortunately, it hits the first time buyers, the lower end price point harder because people that are financially stable, they'll be all right. And so you're driving a further wedge towards home ownership for people who that first home could change their financial lives. So I'm grateful as realtors, we're at the table to protect that. Because before the price hit with the pandemic, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were in the reformation process because they were never intended to be owned by the public. That all happened during the Great Recession. And so we've got to protect Fannie and Freddie in some format while bringing more private partners into the marketplace to create a better hybrid so we can have more mortgage options. So I think what happens in the mortgage market tells us whether we're in a 6-month recovery or an 18-month recovery. And then as you look into the 18 to 24-month window, you're now going to be looking at a period of inflation that will come because you cannot print money endlessly. It has to be backed by something. The government is a consumer of goods. It is not a producer of goods. And the government producing dollars is a problem. And I don't know that most people, I don't think the public schools educate on this properly. I know the colleges don't educate economics properly anymore. And so it does concern me. But there is this general American can-do spirit where we love to work. We love being productive. We love helping each other. So I don't think that it's a forever problem whenever we have it. Will definitely be shorter than the Great Recession of those 7 years because it's not a structural recession. It's a circumstantial recession. So, who knows, right? In real estate, the rule is that you buy and sell when it's right for you to buy and sell. And that's not got anything to do with market conditions.
Amen.
Yeah, well
amen.
said. I got so much, yeah.
And, I told you were a rock star. And like I said, throw a softball or actually a hard ball.
That was fire right there.
And
fire.
Get the heck out of the way and watch some magic happen. I'm going to change gears a little bit. Where was the most interesting place you ever spoke at?
I would probably say Phnom Penh.
Yeah.
I was the first instructor to bring a class to Cambodia. And it's fascinating to be with people who are at the forefront of a marketplace and their private real estate market is starting to grow. Whereas in the US, ours is very established and very much, it has a lot of good expectations of it. But you go to a market where you have primarily young people getting into the opportunity for ownership and for real estate, and their energy is infectious. Their desire for education is amazing. And that's one thing that drives me a little crazy about American realtors. They take their licensing class, they take their CE, and then there's always junkies in every market who love education. They love getting better, but you have a lot that skate by on the bare minimum, and they don't thirst for education like so many people around the world do. And our classes were standing room only, and it was fantastic. So I really enjoy being in a place that inspires me to give more and get better.
So my wife is an immigrant, right? I spent the first half of the 80s attached to the U.S. embassies when I was in the Marine Corps behind the Iron Curtain, lived around the world in places that did not have what we have. And it's always awe-inspiring to me to watch immigrants come in, how they get it. And my wife, God love her, she's more of an American than I am, right? We were watching, so this is a big thing. She's a huge NASCAR fan, huge. So we were watching a Coca-Cola 600, and we're sitting down and watching it, and the national anthem came up. Who stood up and put her hand on her heart?
Your wife did.
Awesome.
And then I went, oh, shit. Then I had
Love you, Yona. Love you, Yona.
Yeah, so,
She's watching.
It's just amazing how...
5 minutes from my house, right? So I'm 5 minutes from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Well,
I grew up.
Don't tell my wife that because we'll end up coming and visiting you.
You're going to have some house guests.
Oh, yeah.
But tell me they let the fans back in because they ruined the race by not having all the fans.
Well, somebody made the mistake of giving me your cell phone number. I'm just saying. That was a huge mistake. Whoever.
It's okay. I'm a screener. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Send voicemail. Well, so, but you were saying, talk about this get the hell out of your way, Monica, that you have, this saying that you have, right? In order to be successful in sales or life, you have to do one thing more than anything else every single day, and that is to get the hell out of your own way. And what is the best way to do that is to reconnect with your way. So talk about that. Hope I did a good job explaining that.
So obviously we're putting this out on video, and most of the people consuming a video interview or video anything are consumers of it. They're afraid to produce it because for whatever reason, most people will tell themselves, I'm too old, fat, ugly, stupid. My hair doesn't look good. I don't sound good. I don't know what to say. I don't have equipment. It's all these really terrible things that nobody ever said to them except themselves. And it's a crisis, I think, that has grown because of social media. Mm-hmm. Because when I grew up, in the whatever year that was, because only Claire knows how old I am, we didn't have social media. There were no digital phones. You took pictures with your 110 camera with your little flash bulbs on the top.
Oh, you just dated yourself there.
Right? Or mailed it. Like we would mail off our film to get it to develop, and you anxiously waited for it to come back. And what you got back was what you got back. Some good, some bad, no big deal. And now we have an era where people expect everything to be perfect all the time. And so they wind up getting paralyzed by perfection and they don't do anything. When we all know that video is so great because you can communicate with people and connect, and they can see your eyes and they can see your face. And maybe you look kind of stupid half the time. I do. The screenshots of me are pretty awful most of the time because I've got a very expressive face. Well, if you're going to question your own ability to deliver value based on a screenshot, then we're never going to get to hear your great ideas and great awesomeness. And so what you find is that anybody successful in life goes out and does things, and then you either apologize later if you hurt somebody's feelings unintentionally, or don't apologize because you have zero left to give, or you just go do it. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and that's just life. I mean, and we haven't really developed this in the children anymore, the sense of resilience to failure. And that's what happens when you get out on your own way. You'll make a lot of mistakes, but you develop the resilience to go try something else. In fact, I just listened to, I love the Joe Rogan show. His podcast is, of course, the most listened to podcast in the world. And he just did an interview with Kevin Hart, who's one of my favorite comedians and actors. And Kevin talks about this. He talks about how people are more able to connect with him because he has failed. And I think we forget that as individuals. It's not about being an influencer and being in front of thousands of people. It could be you in front of your kids. Show your kids that you failed, but you picked up and kept going because, oh my God, they need that right now. Our kids don't know how to fail.
So
it's challenging.
So I'll tell a story about failure, right? Everybody who watches this knows my wife and I lost $17 million in the downturn. All that was things, right? We didn't lose what was important. But to tell you how smart I am, and I guess being a Marine has a lot to do with it, I ran for elected office in the middle of losing everything I had. And I didn't know any better, right? So I was at a debate, and my opponent was like, why are you here, right? You're losing everything you had. And I really never dawned on me. And I went, I didn't realize there was a rule. I just felt I had something to offer. Now, the part of the country that I personally live in, this Yankee accent really didn't kind of go over so well. But, I gave him a run for his money. I got about not quite half, but I got just about a little. I mean, if I would have had another couple of votes, I would have won. But anyway, so that's it. I don't know, and it's just a jarhead thing. Move forward. And so thank you for sharing that. Do we have any questions on the feed? So I'm going to let Jerry take over, ask some questions from the feed.
Hang on, but before I ask, did you ever serve at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, which is one of the best Marine Corps bases out there, or at Cherry Point?
No. So I got selected right out of boot camp to go on MSG, Marine Security Guard. I went from boot camp to Lackland Air Force Base to Quantico, to Langley, to FBI, then went overseas. I never wore.
Oh, so you're Muslim.
I never wore a uniform. I had a little thing in my ear, little thing underneath my arm.
You had dress blues? I mean, were you really a Marine if you had no dress blues?
Ooh.
Are you allowed to go? Ooh.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear. See, that's the secret of 34 years of marriage. Yes, dear. Well, if you look at my Facebook page, I post some pictures of Yona and I getting married in my dress blues.
Oh, okay.
34 years for this guy. We have, I count, 7 different firms in real estate watching here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Guys, we're live on 12 Facebook pages here on Real Talk. Leigh, questions coming in. I'm going to start. So businessman's perspective here. Own a couple of businesses, real estate investor, Advertising agency, third of my money in the equity markets, say a fourth of my, third of my money in real estate, third of my money in my service-oriented business. The question I have for you, interest rates. If interest rates are going down, yes, it may incentivize people to buy a home, especially first-time home buyers, but from an equity markets standpoint, it gives the perception that there's nervousness or uncertainty with the market with it going down. Could perhaps an uptick in interest rates further create consumer confidence, especially on Wall Street, which is going to then trickle down the ladder and create a housing uptick? I'll get out of your way on that.
So look, I don't think rates are going to go down any further. We already have free money. And so our time actually has come to educate people. Our millennial buying population, and I'm not doing this as a slam on your generation, young people, so get your ass off your shoulders. But the reality is this. Interest rates bottomed out in 2008, and they haven't really gone up since. Your whole generation thinks that 3.5% on a 30-year fixed is normal. And friends, it's not normal. Put pencil to paper on an Excel spreadsheet and go back 35 years. The average on your 30-year fixed is going to hover between 6 and 6.5% over time. So we're in an era of free money, and it can't last, and it shouldn't last, and inflation's going to make sure that it doesn't last. So if you're thinking of buying, you need to do it. I mean, you've heard realtors say this for the last 12 years. I get that. But actually, if you look at the bigger economic picture, go macro instead of micro, you will see that this is the time to buy. It's also the time to buy more investment properties, because investment properties, you can still get mortgages there. They're going to be at a higher rate because, of course, they're investment properties, not primary, and it's a larger down payment. But oh my goodness, whoever wrote that comment, high five to you for having so much of your portfolio in a tangible investment like real estate. I'm grateful as somebody with I don't have my Series 7 anymore, or my 63, 65. I did let them go, so I am not a licensed financial planner or advisor. But I will say this, that as much as I know about the equities market, I've been grateful during this time of volatility that I have a balanced portfolio myself. Anybody that's in all equities has been in a hot mess of fear right now because their money's so volatile, and particularly our older population. So our baby boomers have had a lot of heartburn because they haven't been able to keep their savings in the bond market where they would traditionally have coupons and some set income, because interest rates have hammered bonds and you don't have the same kind of return that you normally would have. So what's going to happen as interest rate rise is that bonds will become a better investment vehicle. So you'll have the chance to take advantage of things like municipal bonds, which is double tax-free income.
Right.
That's my retirement plan, is a muni bond ladder. Everybody knows I'm a low risk profile, high old person characteristics there, but I don't buy munis right now because they don't make sense. And so what's going to happen as interest rates go up, munis make more sense. When munis make more sense, then our municipalities can do more borrowing. When they can do good borrowing, they can do infrastructure projects, which produces jobs in the marketplace, which is good for everybody. And so you have to stop thinking about things in a binary. And I think that's the problem with our society right now. It's like masks, right? Masks are a great example. It's become a binary issue. You're either for The Walking Dead or you think it's a hoax. And so there's this wild spectrum that makes no damn sense, but there's nobody in the middle, which is where most things are. Interest rates are no different. It's not that you're going to go from 3.5% to 18%. But I bought my first house at 11 3/4, and I still have that house, and I still love that house, and it's still a great investment because it's up $140,000 since I bought it 18 years ago. And I couldn't have replicated that really in the stock market with something that is continual cash flow. So long story short, rising interest rates are good. Yes. Waiting is not necessarily good. And by the way, there has to be a way for banks and investors to make a return on their damn money. And if you think that interest rates should be at zero because the banks shouldn't have money, then friends, you're not paying attention, because when the banks make money, they get to lend more money out. That's what liquidity is called.
Yes.
And so I remind my kids of this all the time.
He's all super excited over here, Leigh.
Swipe world. When you live in a swipe world, you don't understand there's a finite quality to money. And the government is the biggest purveyor of this problem for teaching people that there is infinite money. It's not true. And so if you want the banks to lend money, you have to make your payments. And when I talk about the liquidity crisis, it's because we have so many people not making mortgage payments right now. And it's not that they don't have paychecks, but they heard they didn't have to make them because coronavirus. And that's bullshit. And that's where the media should be called to task for all the bad headlines they put out there as clickbait. And that's not one side of the media. That's all the media, because they're making money on scaring the shit out of you.
That's right.
And and you don't make payments, the bank doesn't have money to lend to your neighbor who needs to be able to buy a house. And if you're concerned about workforce housing and the affordability crisis that's happening, then you should understand that banks should have money to lend, because in a looser lending environment, we can make accommodations for lower down payments and for people with different credit score situations. And that's how we can help our neighbors, not by tightening it up and punishing them for mistakes that somebody else made.
Dude, maybe one of the smartest things ever said in this entire network. I freaking love her physically conservative mindset when it comes to money. And I will throw this to you here. As an active investor with almost 20,000 square feet in a portfolio and interest rates that go from 5 to 6.5% on this 20,000 square feet, depending on the loan, I am actively saying, increase my interest rates. Let's get the credit markets looser. Let's help the banks make money and watch how this positively impacts Wall Street and everything. I don't understand why this isn't so obvious.
It's because too many people. All right, so if you think about the active role the media has played in all angles of this, not just politics, but in financial markets, because they're paid with advertising and clicks on headlines, they put out misleading headlines, and most of the public has a low attention span because social media has devastated our ability to focus and pay attention. So people read a headline, panic, and move on, and they're not learning. And when they don't learn, they can't fight back. And when you don't fight back, you allow the narrative to stay out there. And this is not exclusive to one side of the aisle or the other, friends. It's across the board. So what I would beg of you is to do your own research. Read the whole article and look for fallacies in it and inerrancies. They're in there. And you can make better decisions. We all have to. This is our job, right? And as parents, this is what I'm teaching my kids to do. I'm like, if they see a headline, I'm like, read the article. And they're like, well, I clicked on it, was 87 ads. I'm like, then you found a shit article. So don't listen to that. You got to go one step beyond. Look for graphs and charts, data and numbers and bullet points. And that's when you know you have something going on you can pay attention to. But we have to think about money differently. And we haven't educated people on that in a swipe society.
I love it. I love it, Keith.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's the most excited in over a year I've seen my partner in crime.
Yeah.
So we have this whole, so that you know, this whole Batman and Robin thing going on, so that you know. Guess who's Robin?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you're wearing the mask. So we won't know you're-
That's right. So my wife and I's first house that we bought, all great stuff that you said, 1987. You probably know what our interest rate was. It had an 8 in it.
18%.
18%. And we were damn lucky to get it. But, yes. just to kind of take what you said and boil it into a little bit of a thing. The banks need a 2% spread to make money.
At least.
They need a minimum.
2% is not even worth their time.
They need a 2% spread, right? So right now, they're just not making any money.
Right. Why would you lend money with this interest rate? Like if you're a bank.
I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? People don't.
But
I think we're too selfish to understand that there's a goodness that comes from allowing other people to do things, because we only want what's good for us. And one of my favorite authors is Ayn Rand. I love Atlas Shrugged.
Me too.
If anybody out there has touched a dollar bill and hasn't read Atlas Shrugged, you're crazy, because it's beautifully written. And she was so smart, a Russian emigre, right? So she comes over from Russia in the early part of the 1900s, and she writes this. She could see the future happening, but what she says is that you can't just you got to look beyond, right? So if you only want what's best for me, then you're going to do it at the expense of other people sometimes. But you have to look at the whole story. Ugh.
So the good news is we have no FCC rules
here.
Well,
obviously.
so that you know. So you can say whatever the freak you want.
It's a good thing we know the owner of the network.
And I know the owner of the network, so we're good. I'm convinced that you're a northerner wrapped up somewhere in that southern accent.
My family would just die. No, I married the first Yankee in our family.
Ooh, so how did that go? That was
well, it worked out all right. He's from New York, but he's from West New York, so I think he was probably a southerner.
Dude, you're getting props right now. Sasha's watching the show. Sasha Tripp's watching the show, and she says, Leigh Thomas Brown, I miss your sweet face, lady. Hold on, I got more props for you. Ready for this?
My conference wife. We've slept together a lot.
Okay, I love this lady. Arlene
I want that back, because I really want to hear about that.
I love
She's watching. She's got a message for you. You ready? Yeah, Arlene Yobbs says, hey, Leigh, I just love seeing you again. I can't wait to see you soon. That's from Arlene Yobbs.
We love her. So she's somebody who promotes education in the realtor community, and she leads with service. And I think that that's an unspoken trait of a lot of great realtors. You got Tom Wolcott as president this year of the Charlottesville Realtors. And a lot of the public doesn't understand that the same person who sticks a sign in your yard is often dedicating hour after hour to protecting your right to have a sign in that yard through protecting property rights, which is why if anybody's watching this, you only pick realtors that wear this pin that tells you that they are advocating for your property rights in addition to wanting to be selected as the realtor who sells your house. I know Arlene wears that pin, Sasha wears that pin, Tom wears that pin. Of course, you've got leaders over at Montague Miller who were part of the beginning structure of political advocacy. I mean, great humans in Charlottesville and your real estate community, good people.
So I have a bit of a volaholic problem myself. So I tend to sit on a bunch of boards and nonprofits, all revolving around planning and housing and stuff like that. So I have that pin, but it's very hard for me to put it on other than my Marine Corps pin. That kind of comes first. You know, it's just once a Marine, always Marine. I'm sorry, what was that?
They go together. Our military fought for us to have the right for entrepreneurism and property rights. And so we are free in this country to pursue all kinds of
I think I just got called out. I think I just got called out. Is that what this was?
A little bit. Marines get right, the realtors protect it.
Yeah.
We work hand.
Yeah. So, you know, we're getting close up on our time together. We started a little bit when we got on air. We're both runners. So what's your next big race you're training for?
Well, I'm actually training for Chicago. It's my first world major. I never got in before I entered the lottery, and now I'm just kind of praying it doesn't get canceled because of all the fears from COVID. So maybe it'll hold up because runners are very healthy people, and we should be allowed to have our races, even if spectators are held back at some degree. But, you know, I train all the time. Running is one of those things that you can't just decide you're going to do it one time and go out and succeed, because that's how you're guaranteed to get hurt. And you have to have discipline and a strategy, and you have to go when you don't want to go. So it's kind of like real estate, or kind of like anything else in life. If you get up and make yourself go when you don't want to, at the end you found out it was absolutely worth doing.
That runner's high is wonderful, isn't it?
I've never found the runner's
really?
high, so I'm hoping I'll
really. Well, you're kind of up there all the time, so so what's your favorite distance? So I'm going to talk about running for a few minutes because.
Oh, I love the half marathon.
Oh yeah, same here.
Special for us. I love a half. I've done 28 halves in my time as a runner. I started running in 2012. If anybody's curious, because I had got overweight and I didn't like overweight, and so I low carb to lose weight. Then I started running and got rid of all my fat clothes and never looked back. So you have to sometimes hit that low point to find a high point, and that's what happened in my life.
I've been doing it since I'm 18. I won't tell you how old I am, but I'm very close to 60. And
but you're close on which side of 60 though, because.
But my favorite race is a half. I do 2 fulls a year and about a dozen halves a year. The last 2 years I've been struggling with this recovery we talked about offline. But when you get to be north of double nickels, that recovery thing sucks.
It sucks north of 35. Because
well, you're not 35, so I don't know why you're even saying that for.
Right.
So any piece of wisdom that you want to share before we jump on off? Do we have any other questions?
No. Take it home.
Got it. So any other piece of wisdom? I mean, you're just energetic and just full of great stuff.
Give her a final word. Anywhere you want to go. Spit some fire for us, Leigh. Anywhere you want to go.
I think she's been doing that.
Yeah.
So
Final word for us.
Give us something. Give us something to write home about.
Reopen the economies. All the economies need to be reopened. I think we're adults. We can do it safely. People with underlying conditions can stay home. But for heaven's sakes, we are causing some long-term ramifications by not letting Americans be Americans. And we need to think about this. And I'm telling you, the unintended consequences are far-reaching, and we're not paying attention. And by the way, the fact that any elected official turned over decision-making to health departments is bullshit, because you elected officials. You did not elect your health department. So anytime they abscond responsibility, hold their feet to the fire on that. This is not one side of the aisle or the other. It's been all over the place. And I get that at the beginning, our elected officials didn't know what was going on. And so I appreciate that they proceeded with caution. But as the data has come out and we've seen more and more information, there should be more and more relaxation of, holy smokes, I'm so glad we were wrong. Can we not hear one elected official say that? I'm glad we were wrong, that we don't have 2 million dead. Shouldn't we all be celebrating that as Americans?
That's a great
We
thing.
should all be celebrating that people have found ways to be adults and wash their hands. And by the way, why weren't people washing their hands before all this? That's a different discussion,
Do not
I guess.
get me started on that, girlfriend. Do not get me started on that.
But I do think that as we go forward, flu seasons are going to wind up being less impactful because we'll hopefully have better habits about when you're sick, stay home, and when you go anywhere, you should wash your hands. Be cool. But that's all I got to say.
That's great.
We've got
my future son-in-law from my youngest daughter is a doctor out in Seattle, and we were having a conversation about that, how the deaths from the regular flu, whatever that means, has dropped dramatically. Maybe because people are washing their hands, maybe because people are social distancing. Oh, and how many meetings have you been in? I know I've been in a ton of them, where the person sitting across 3 feet away from you, they got the flu, and it's like, what the F are you doing here? Go away. So all that is
to the parents that bring their sick kids to school because they don't have alternatives.
Sure.
So as a society, we need to make sure there's some kind of an alternative that people don't feel forced into that binary, because everything's not a binary. And I think that's what we should come out of this with. But we also need a serious hold our elected officials accountable at all levels, because we have given them far too much control over our lives, and we should not be asking permission to go to work. That's a problem.
So bring it back to real estate a little bit. In your marketplace, because you're an active real estate agent, in your marketplace, are you seeing people moving out of the urban more to the rural in the last 60 days? Have you seen that? Or is that, I don't really know much about your marketplace. So is that something that's trending where you're at?
Well, Charlotte's one of the largest cities in the country that nobody thinks of when they list large cities. It's kind of hilarious. You have Chicago, Seattle, and then Charlotte, North Carolina. You always have to add North Carolina to Charlotte. It's kind of hilarious, but it's because people think it's Charlottesville, Charleston, and Charlotte are the same city when 3 different states, or 4 different states if you take both Charlestons. But anyway, we aren't seeing a lot of that because our urban center tends to be young professionals, and young professionals aren't really feeling the crunch of this. Like you see in New York City, you've got people of all age groups living in the city center. Sure. I know that talking to my realtor friends in New Jersey and Connecticut, they're definitely looking at moving out of areas like Manhattan. But here, what's interesting is a house with a pool is suddenly a hot commodity because like to be able to have that summer experience at home in their space where they can control the outcomes a little more than you can control them elsewhere. And otherwise, our Charlotte market is still very affordable. And so our first time buyer range is still a very desirable commodity because investors are still buying here. We're one of the top growth markets in the country. We're one of the top airports in the country. And so we still have a good economic basis for the future, and it's kept things strong. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm also grateful that for the moment, Open Door, OfferPad, and iBuyer are not as active in the market as they were prior to the pandemic. And I can't stand hedge funds owning houses. I do support small-time investors who want to have more doors in their portfolio because it's a wonderful way to diversify your capital structure. But hedge funds are not the way to go for community benefit, health, and safety. So, yeah, it's a good place to be a realtor. It's a great place to live. And I'm grateful to live on 10 acres at the edge of the city myself because I love having my little privacy and my little own personal water source and a driveway I can close off if the zombie apocalypse does happen.
So we talk about this on the show all the time, and you're clearly it. Trusted advisors, it's funny. We were having a conversation, how are we communicating with our clients? This thing is actually a phone. Right? And you actually can put it to your ear, or in my case, I have hearing aids in, but, you can talk to somebody and say, hey, how you doing? And have a conversation. I am, iBuyer, Redfin, all these other internet companies are not going to, I personally don't think they're going to be so successful on the back end of this. The phone, we do a lot of millennials. They just want to be communicated with. You may start with a text, and you may start with an email, and you may start with a thing, but they want a trusted advisor, and it's been my experience. They'll put this thing down real fast and not necessarily say these words, but guide me, tell me what to do, right? So,
well, I think positive outcome of coronavirus, people have spent so much time on devices. They're hungry to be away from them, and so that's going to be a positive outcome that will make all of us better.
So you're a rock star. I mean, I could probably talk to you for another 2 hours, particularly about running, right? And
Well, we don't want to hear that.
We don't want to hear that.
We don't want to hear the running stuff.
Like that, we know.
People don't understand us. This is a Leigh, people don't understand it.
I was like, we ride around in the car with runner food just in case, because these are my favorites. The Cliff Blocks, they're amazing.
And then you probably got some alcohol someplace else for later.
Well, that's for Saturday runs. We do boozy ice pops on Saturdays after a long run.
So there was a Facebook post that this young lady put on chasing had to be like a 3-foot or 4-foot black snake.
He was 6 feet. He was beautiful. But the people on the greenway, I was afraid he was going to get run over by somebody's bicycle.
Sure, and just kind of tickled his tail a little bit, and he slithered right into it.
Love it.
My kind of lady.
Yeah, you crushed it. Thank you for joining us.
Leigh, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. She was absolutely amazing. I want to dot the I's and cross the T's here because the real estate talk is what really resonated on the feed here. And you have a lot of brokers that are watching. And it's almost like this crossroads where it's like, do you raise the rates and make the perceived barrier of entry more difficult, especially for first-time home buyers? Because that's what increased rates would do. The perceived barrier of entry is more difficult. But until you raise the rates, the credit markets are going to be Fort Knox tight.
Yeah, so I was having this conversation with a client looking to refinance their house. The refi rates are at these rates we're talking about. They're hard to get. You got to have a credit score of 725, 750, right? Because of these the credit markets are doing that. But you'll see the federal. I disagree. I think you're going to see some sub 3% rate. But they're mostly going to be VA and FHA loans, first time home buyers on that.
I have straight up 780 plus, 25% down, commercial property. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Pursuing.
I do.
Bottom of the 8th inning right now.
And where you at?
The credit markets are brutal.
Yeah, sure.
And it's going to close, and we're on our way to closing. But if someone...
Can you tell me what rate or...
The someone, yeah, I will tell you what rate. 575. As someone who has capital, who has a portfolio of properties and a track record of payment history and tremendous credit score, if the credit markets are that tough for someone who's in 4 different checks, that's a problem. And on top of that, the perceived value of increased rates with Wall Street has an impact on Wall Street with the equity markets.
It all goes to, this is a good time to buy, this is a good time to sell. The rates really, the difference between a 325 and a 275 is really not going to equate to a whole much in a per month.
It's nothing for us, but for the banks, it's a lot.
Oh, for the banks, it's huge. Well, they're not making any money at 3% anyway.
Yeah, the banks, why would they lend?
Yeah, well, because what's going to happen is the federally backed loans they're going to lend, right? Because they're guaranteed by the feds. The portfolio money, they're not going to do because they're not making any money.
No money.
It needs to be 5 or 6%. Anybody who's in the business will tell you that.
The opportunity cost of taking the money off their balance sheet and giving it to somebody at sub 4% is not worth their time. They would much rather hold the capital in case we have another recession and have a strong balance sheet.
All this is great conversation, but we're, to talk about why somebody should jump into the market to sell or buy right now, why this is the right time. It's because money is cheap right now. It's free. It's free money. I had a conversation with a client the other day. They wanted to use cash, a larger cash down payment. I said, why bother?
And did they listen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's just do whatever the minimum is.
You told them 20%, so they didn't have the PMI.
You can get around that a little bit, but yeah.
Okay. So they did 20?
They did 20, yeah. They were going to put way more than 20 down.
Gotcha.
But again, to quote Leigh, get the hell out of your own way, right? This is a great time to buy. This is a great time to sell. The inventory is zero. If you're in a position to buy and sell, this is really the right time to do that. I know real estate people are supposed to say that. They're going to say that all the time. I could tell you 2012, it wasn't the right time, right? When were we going to sell again? When were things going to open again? But I'm an optimistic guy. We got this bet going on, so I think 2021 is going to be a good year.
Your take on her reopening the economy? She was vehement, and I'm straight up the same way. Open the damn thing up.
So I love Leigh to death, but she don't sugarcoat it.
No,
she knows what she says is what she means. Yeah, look, it has to happen. We can't. This is not sustainable, right? This is not sustainable that the economy is going to do that. At some point in time, somebody's going to have to pay for all this.
Right.
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 Somebody's going to have to pay for all this, and I think what could drag us into a recession is not the housing market, not the unemployment, is this huge amount of debt.
You're talking the debt service.
The debt service, yeah.
Yeah.
As somebody who had debt at one time, a large amount of debt at one time, debt service can be a horrible
Oh, yeah,
thing.
it's a snowball effect. You never get ahead of debt service.
You never get
That's why,
ahead.
like, if anybody that's watching this program, I feel like you get a lot of knowledge bombs and truth from us. I'm going to straight up tell you, make your estimated payments if you're an entrepreneur and a business owner. Make your quarterly estimated payments. Don't have a lump sum due at the end of the year. And if you have that lump sum due at the end of the year to the Commonwealth or to the tax man, the IRS, pay it. Because the last thing you want is a debt service back end that you're never going to get ahead of. Okay? We try to talk economics and basic principles and make them in an approachable way. We talked about increasing interest rates. We talked about managing debt service. How about her take on this? The political nature of COVID and how it's been leveraged from people on the other side of the aisle to the detriment of a marketplace and us as Americans, as Charlottesvillians. Because she straight up went down that road.
So everything is politicized today.
Yeah.
The fact that tomorrow is going to be Wednesday at some level will get politicized. So it just happens to be the subject of the month. I ignore that. I try to get away from the noise. Yon and I do not watch a lot of television. We read a lot. But yeah, it's, they're generating fear, and I just don't understand why.
You're talking about the fear in the marketplace. Yeah, that's obviously the issue here.
Yeah.
We have, as someone who's in advertising and branding, guys, this is literally what is happening, and she touched on this. We have media in America. And go to this camera over here, Gina. We have media in America that is leveraging fear to drive metrics and page views and clicks to their website. And by creating this narrative of fear, a good portion of readership is latching onto it and believe it as the holy grail spoken word. And that fear is keeping people very much isolated in very small groups and from patronizing and supporting the economy.
You also got it the other way, too.
What's the alternative?
The other way is that some media outlets are saying there's nothing wrong, right? So there obviously is something wrong.
Yeah.
There's something going on here. So that's the point. The point is there's two positions. Somewhere in the middle, as Leigh said, is
the right answer.
Is the truth.
Is the
it's
truth.
Always the case.
Right.
Somewhere's there, and you need to seek this out. So if I'm only looking at A, then I'm only going to believe A. I say this all the time. If you want to be a turkey, hang out with turkeys. If you want to be an eagle, hang out with eagles. So look for a trusted source of information.
Right.
On this, which, by the way, is what you do a lot of.
Thank you.
You do
We're
a lot.
We're just trying to be real. Same with you.
Yeah, sure.
What are you trying to do? Is cut. What is the thing? Cut through the noise. Ask questions. Engage. What's the mission?
Oh, the mission.
Yeah.
Ask question, be engaged, and stay connected.
Basically, cut through the noise.
Yeah, sure.
Figure it out.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think, and as somebody, we just came past Memorial Day, and it's always a hard time for me. I think of my friends that didn't come home with me when I went overseas, and those who think that the first half of the 80s we didn't lose people. That's not true. But let's have a civil discourse of a conversation.
Amen.
Right? You and I may not see eye to eye on things. Sometimes that happens, but I will never disrespect you.
Right.
I will never disrespect
We
your
agree
opinion.
to disagree.
I will never disrespect your opinion because
Yeah.
you believe in it, nor would you disrespect mine.
Right.
Now, when this is over with, we'll walk over and have a drink, right? And that was fine. And
Right.
we need to get back to that. We need to get back to that discourse where, if you are not in this camp, if you're not in that camp, then you're wrong. Then you're wrong. Well,
Yeah, that's not right.
That's bullshit.
That is bullshit.
I didn't do what I did.
Right.
And lose friends to say, okay, this is this camp and this is camp. Most people, though, if you sit down and have a conversation with them one-on-one, they'll come out of this camp and they'll actually have a conversation
I
with
agree.
them. Yeah,
And you know what I think it is you get, everybody gets a lot of keyboard muscles.
Sure.
Everybody with this in your hands and typing a message has moxie
Sure.
and is probably willing to say or type something on this that they would never say in this setting.
Sure. It's called beer muscles.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's one of the negatives of social.
Yeah, so like anything, right? This is a positive, right? We could not do what we do. We could not touch, how many? 250,000 people?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you told me last show we had, 15,000?
Last show was impactful with the syndication, the podcast, the live. It was impactful. This one's going to be just as good.
Yeah. So that's the positive end of it. But every time there's a positive, sometimes people take advantage of it, and you just got to discount that, right? If you make the choice to follow that, then that's a choice you made, right? And live with it. But somewhere in the middle. Some people may not like what we're doing, and some people might like what they're doing over there, and that's fine. But just have a conversation.
I think
we talk about before this all happened. Stop and say hello to somebody. Hey, how you doing? How's your day going?
Julius Jefferson. I like Leigh Brown. Watching the program right now.
So Julius, we love. Julius is an outstanding human being. And one of these days, I'm going to get him on the show. He has some really neat heritage connected to a very famous president here. And I'd love, when we get to the point that we can have guests.
We'll get him in studio.
I want to have him in the studio.
Love it.
And I don't care if the cameras are on or off. That's going to be a great conversation.
Catherine Lochner watching the program. Jerry and Keith just popping in. Who was your guest named Leigh? I want to follow. Guys, we're going to archive this show on the YesTeamRealtors.com. We will syndicate it for 2 weeks across the I Love CVille Network, including putting it on ILoveCVille.com. Catherine, if you want physically conservative policy mindset and a physically conservative financial mindset, and someone who can deliver information to you in an approachable and digestible fashion, I very much encourage you to listen to this replay and listen to Leigh Brown.
We'll put in the feed all Leigh's links and stuff like that.
She was amazing. Andre Xavier, CEO, CVille Hop on Tours. An amazing guest, guys.
Oh, yeah.
An amazing guest. Oh, yeah. Very intelligent and well-spoken. I loved it. Thank you for the amazing knowledge you provide. Kelly Tripp says that is one badass woman right there.
Yeah, I had to put a seatbelt on in my chair because I knew it was going to be a bumpy ride. So
she was giving a little spitfire back to you. I liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
I'm going to say
I'm going to ride down to North Carolina and say hi.
I think you're probably staying in her guest house right there. Yona loves Charlotte. That's why.
Yeah.
Final word here. Before we go down the final word path, let's give some love to Scott Morris, to Dairy Market, and some of our fabulous sponsors.
Yeah, so Roy Wheeler is for sure up in there, right? We couldn't be doing what we're doing without the leadership from Michael Guthrie, so we love the heck out of him, and everybody that's on the feedback. The reality of it is shop local, right? Engage locally, spend your dollars locally, go out and eat. Matter of fact, when we finish with this, today is our wedding anniversary, we're gonna go sneak out for a little bit of a lunch on a patio over there to celebrate our 34th birthday.
Where are you guys going?
We don't want the media following.
Oh, okay. We don't want the media following.
Our favorite restaurant is Orzo, so we're going to see if we can sneak in that patio there for lunch. I don't know. You may know if they're open
Charles
for lunch.
is my boy. I can text them for you.
Yeah,
Charles and Ken.
I don't know if they're open or not.
I'll be like, hey, Charles, Ken, if you're not open, you got the distinguished gentleman coming over. The man needs a gin and he needs a lasagna. Stat.
You got it. We're good.
I knew you would like that. It's a 34th.
So it was to kind of wrap a little bit about Leigh was talking about, particularly with this, and I've told this story once before, and this is a great tool, and this tool accomplishes so much. I could not do what I do without this tool. But, this whole millennial and everything focuses around this on that. I tell the story as it's our 34th wedding anniversary, how I asked Yona to marry. You remember this story.
Yeah.
So, I called her on the phone, and our youngest daughter thought that was very unromantic, and I needed to explain to her. That took me 6 weeks to organize that. I was in Canada at the time. I had to get the U.S. ambassador in Canada, the U.S. ambassador behind the Iron Curtain in Sofia, Bulgaria, the ambassador in for the Austrian ambassador. Then I had to navigate the Soviet phone system.
You're basically the freaking United Nations
to
call Yona.
It took me 6 weeks. And I remember this, I'm asking her to marry. You can hear the guy smoking cigarettes as he was listening.
He's eavesdropping.
Well, that's what they did.
Yeah.
Everything you said or done was recorded and listened to. And then at the very end, he goes, "Congratulations." Click, and hangs up the phone. True story. True story.
I love it. 34 years later, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, man.
34 years today.
Where does the time go?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The best deal of your life.
And we talk about this all the time. I sold it, and I'm selling it every day.
I know you are.
I am selling
You're
it.
leveraging that big time.
Because every day I wake up and going, she's going to get smart one day. She's going to get smart one day. And then next thing you know, she's going to be hanging out with Leigh down in Carolina.
The Coca-Cola 600 while you're at Lake Monticello.
Going, what happened?
What happened? What happened? Oh, that was so good. You're a good man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
34 years for the yes.
34 years.
Trusted advisors in the game. I've spent 18 months with this guy, constantly doing this program. Trusted advisors in the game, the Yes Team Realtors. Final word anywhere you want to go.
I want to get off because I want to go hang out with this beautiful woman that I'm married to in Orzo and have a drink. And we've cleared our schedules, no phone calls, no cell phones, no texts, no emails. We're just going to enjoy each other for the rest of the day.
You're not going to take the phone call for the $3.5 million listing you just got on the feed?
You know what? No.
No! I made that up. There's no $3.5 million. Yeah. Would you, if it was actually, would you have taken the phone call?
No.
No?
No.
Respect. I love it.
I would not have done that.
Okay.
I really would not. I would pass it off to somebody else.
May have texted in the bathroom while Yoda was
Honey, I gotta take a leak. Honey, I gotta take a leak.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Can I call you in 20?
Let me call you at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Don't text me again.
No. I made a commitment. I'm going to stick to it.
Love it. Except for the show.
Of course, yeah.
Except
any opportunity to spend time with you.
Okay. Thank you, Yoda. Thank you. This is Real Talk, powered by the Yes Team Realtors on the I Love CVille Network. Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15. The man has got such a deep contact book. If you want a phenomenal show, listen to this one in replay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today, powered by the Yes Team Realtors.
The video.
Oh, we want to play the video.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, before we close,
I got all excited.
I did get excited. Judah, do you have that video ready to go? All right, let's cue up this video. This is new. I like it.
Yeah, well, a closer show, we're going to do a video.
Okay. Judah, play that video in 3, 2, and 1.